Hey friends, in today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 simple ways to reignite your inner flame and bring yourself back to life. So if you feel like you've been struggling a little bit in the daily grind, maybe find yourself stuck in patterns of dreading your day more than you're actually looking forward to it, this video is for you. So I recently went to this really cool event called Blanket Fort Yoga Restival. And it just really highlighted for me some of the things that used to be prioritized for us as children, like play, creativity, and rest, are no longer prioritized for us as adults. And maybe that's some of the disconnect that we feel and how our life feels to us. So I want to talk about reprioritizing play, creativity, and rest in our daily lives as a way to reclaim our power and our energy and bring ourselves back to life. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is play. I think sometimes play gets written off as silly and minimized as something only for kids. And that's not true. We just need to start making time for it and give ourselves permission to be silly, to engage in whatever activities that are a little bit more playful to us, right? Because really play brings about an energy of like joy, that inner fulfillment, like a lightheartedness. Like who doesn't want more of that in our daily lives? We can give it to ourselves by making it a priority. And I also realized just how much like play is actually sacred. Like there was this beautiful mix of like sacredness and also like childlike kind of awe and wonder at this event that I went to. And it really got my wheels turning about reintroducing play into my own life, also as a way to reconnect with my inner child and give her some of the things that I didn't necessarily get as a kid, but I can give to myself now as an adult. And so first of all, it was permission to go to this Blanket Fort Yoga Restival, right? I signed up for it. I thought, oh, what a great way to reconnect with myself after all like the heavy work and kind of like inner child healing we've been doing recently. And also I bought her some battery operated twinkly lights to decorate my fort with. We got a brand new coloring book that was unicorns, princesses, and mermaids. It's just like so cool. It's a great coloring book actually. And also a brand new box of crayons, of course, to go with the coloring book. And I just really like let myself kind of cater to these kind of inner whims of what did I want to bring to this restival with me. And it really like, I don't know, it nourished my soul in a way that's like hard to explain, but I know I'm onto something about play being a sacred way to both reconnect with my inner child and also bring them back to life, bring me back to life through tapping into this energy. So that's a really cool way of thinking about it. How can you reintroduce play more into your life? Some other ways that I do this on a daily basis is listening to music. Like I often listen to music and I'll be dancing kind of as I'm finishing out my morning routines. I also tend to do that with chores because chores are like, kind of like heavy, right? Stupid adult responsibilities. But like, how can we lighten up some of these responsibilities? Like start asking yourself, how can I make this activity that I don't particularly enjoy, but I have to do? How can I make this more fun? Start giving yourself permission to make life more fun because you're a freaking adult and you can do whatever you want. You just have to remember that you have that power. So start using it in ways that actually suit you and that actually feel good to you. So the second thing we're going to talk about is creativity. Start thinking about like some creative outlets that maybe you haven't allowed yourself to indulge in a while. Again, sometimes the play and the creativity kind of go hand in hand, right? These things that might seem silly to us as adults are kind of like frivolous activities we don't have time for. Well, you need to make time because creative outlets actually connect you to these other parts of yourselves as well. Think about how you used to feel when you used to get into creative states as a kid. Like, what did you enjoy? I enjoyed coloring, so we'll kind of talk about that, or lots of artwork and things like that. Think about when you used to get so lost in the moment when you were creating something, when you were painting or drawing or coloring or building with your blocks, right? Making something with your hands, Play-Doh. Like, when you get into these creative states, you're actually tapping into a flow state, the type of state that we want to be tapping into when we start recreating our lives. And you're starting to kind of use your imagination a little bit, right? But it's really about like harnessing that inner energy and giving yourself permission to be in the present moment too. It really brings the idea of allowing yourself to become more present and just fully enjoying the moment for what it is, for where you are, without thinking about other things. And that's really important to harness too, as we start recreating our lives in ways that feel better to us. And also, when you were creating as a kid, were you super focused on the outcome of whatever it was that you were trying to create or make or do? Or were you more focused on the process of it, right? I think a lot of times our joy is actually in the creation process versus the outcome. And that's something that has been flipped around as adults. We're often pushed to focus on the production and the outcome of something, right? To achieve something versus the process of the doing itself. I hope that makes sense. But learning to flip that back around and actually enjoying the process as you're going through it, regardless of the outcome, like unattached to the outcome, brings through this inner joy, this inner like river of creative life force energy. And so it's a great way to start practice tapping back into that for yourself. That's going to come in real handy as you start working more on like manifestation and recreating your life and things like that. It's all the same energy. It's that life force energy that we've become disconnected from. Okay. So creativity, also a big one. Let yourself be creative just for the sake of creating. Okay. So we're also going to talk about rest. And a lot of times I think rest, we just think of sleeping and you're like, yeah, Britt, I know I'm supposed to be sleeping 8 hours a day, but I can't because of XYZ. And while I think sleep is very important because it's one of the most important restorative processes we have, there are also different aspects, different types of rest that are also restorative and that you could start giving yourself permission to tap into on the daily. So you can start thinking of rest more, instead of just sleeping, as intentional quiet time, right? We used to get these intentional quiet times, nap times, right? When we were small children in school. And we weren't always expected to necessarily rest, but it was just a time to like decompress, right? To take a time out during the day when you might be overstimulated, to just like bring your nervous system back down, to just kind of like reconnect and ground yourself. And I think that that's really important to bring back into is like a daily practice or habit. For me, it's going to be probably my meditation practice and some of the stretches and like somatic healing that I'm doing to reconnect with my nervous system. So you could also think of it as a way of just kind of like turning your brain off. Like sometimes I imagine like a dial in my brain because I tend to overthink things, where I say, okay, brain, not now. I turn her down a few notches. I kind of tuck her into bed and I say, I'm going to get into my body now. And I kind of like get into my heart space. And I just like notice how my body feels. I start paying attention to my breath. I start paying attention to where there might be tension and getting curious about it. It's a restorative process that I think is sometimes overlooked, but it's really important to tune into your body and into your feelings, because that's where we want to be making our decisions from, not always our brains and the overthinking, right? Now, there is a time and a place kind of for more of a reflective rest practice. And I think that that's helpful in kind of making sense of your life and evaluating yourself on where you're at and where you're headed, things like that. I love to journal. Journaling is one of my favorite kind of more active restorative processes that I do. And so I think that there's space for both, but definitely start thinking about bringing in rest as a form of like quiet times throughout your day to decompress and to reconnect with yourself, to get grounded again. Okay. So I hope that you're able to consider these practices and maybe just like do like 5 minutes a day of each, 5 minutes of play, minutes of creativity, 5 minutes of rest, and see how your life changes just by taking like 15 to 20 minutes for yourself each day and just reconnecting with yourself to remember that you deserve to live a life that feels good to you, not just that looks good on paper. And sometimes that means giving yourself permission to do some of the things that aren't necessarily promoted, right? To give yourself permission to take a time out, to take some of your time and your energy back for yourself, to refuel yourself, refuel your soul tank. Because that soul tank, that flame, that light, like that inner joy, that's all the same thing that I'm talking about, is that's how you bring yourself back to life. If you're finding yourself in a life that doesn't feel good to you anymore, that feels kind of heavy, where you dread stepping into your day versus excited for seeing what you get to experience. And I think tapping into these childlike senses of awe and wonder, the play, the creativity, the rest, are really going to help you find a little bit more balance so that you can start living a life that feels good to you because you deserve it. So I hope that this helps. I hope you have a beautiful day in this beautiful life, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.